Mm, all right, so we're live. Let's start off with the summer 2025 paper, just like always. And then, yeah, I know the temperature has been dropping over the past few days. And even today in Lahore, the temperature is pretty less. But let me just start screen sharing. And you guys should quickly just let me know in the chat box. Can you guys see the screen clearly? And also, is my audio clearly audible? Yes or no? All right, perfect. So we're going to be starting and looking for some like chapter number 6 question. This is the summer 2025 paper, May June paper 12. So let's see. Yep, we do have a question up here, question number 5. So this question relates one application of robotics. So in your chapter number 6, we are going to be learning about what robots and AI is. What are those common industries where robots are being used? What are the advantages of applying or making use of a robot in a specific industry? What are the disadvantages? What are expert systems and all those related thingies? So you should be well aware of all this. In your book, when you open the book and you start learning the concept, you're going to see that a lot of applications have been discussed. So like, where can a robot be used? Where can be an expert system be used? So you should be fully aware of why the book is trying to explain that, because you should understand that if a scenario is given to you, you should be well aware of why should we make use of a robot here and why not. So you should be aware of the advantages, and if I, let's say, impose or introduce a robot in a scenario like this, what can be the possible repercussions or maybe disadvantages of implementing such technology in that specific field. So this question is something similar to that. It says that a hospital has computers and technology that it uses when caring for its patients. Okay, so one computer is an expert system. Makes sense. On क्यों नहीं है? एक second. Let me reconnect the graphic tablet. Yep. So one computer is an expert system that is used to help diagnose a patient's illness. And then the doctor inputs the patient's symptoms into an interface and diagnoses its output. You need to explain how does the expert system diagnose the whole whatever illness the patient has. See, so what's an expert system? So your expert system is basically a model in which there is like an inference engine, and the user provides some sort of data to that engine, which then makes decision on the inputted data and the data it has in the background mind. So you can say like in the hard disk or whatever database it had, and then based on that data it's going to create and make a decision as to what possible consequence can occur for this specific patient. So like in simple words, you see there is this, you might have played this one game known as Akinator. I guess it's named the same. Let me confirm it to Akinator if I'm not wrong. Yep. So what happens in Akinator is that the person is going, the app basically is going to figure out a specific person for you. So it can be any person out there. And then it's going to ask you some possible question. Was this person a YouTuber? Yes, no. Is he a cricket player? Yes, no. Has he done this or no? And you just need to answer in terms of yes and no. So what you're trying to do is that as a user, you're giving this system some sort of an input. And now the system has a database at the back using which there is an inference engine set up here, inference engine. And now your decision from here goes to the inference engine, and then the inference engine takes your data and it compares it with the possible values in the database. And then it's like, okay, this person said that the player is footballer. Now let's see in the database, how many footballers do we have? So it narrows down the list. Okay, his age is greater than 30. All footballers with the age of greater than 30. Okay, smaller. And so on. It reduces the list, and eventually, you're going to see that you will reach a point where you have one single answer. And then this answer is then outputted to the user. This is the whole model used by an expert system. So you just have to explain the whole model up here in 3 statements so that you can get a perfect 3 on 3. Arrays are not going to be taught in this specific tutorials because these topical sessions are going to end tonight, inshallah. This will be the last one. We did not do enough paper 1 practice beforehand, so we have completed enough P1 practice, and from the 1st of December we will be starting off with the course again all the way from the start. So in that course, we will, once we start paper number 2, we will be doing arrays and functions and all paper 2 concepts in a very great depth alongside relevant practice of all the concepts being taught in your exams. So Ali, that part will be done in our course, inshallah. So apart from that, if you was just talking about the basics of programming, we have also started uploading chapter number 7 videos on our YouTube channel, so you can go and watch that too. But those will not be covering areas, but it will make sure that your basics of pseudocode are clear enough to ace any of your mids if coming up soon. See, so now coming back to the question, it says that describe how the expert system decides the diagnosis. So we just have to explain the whole process. So first of all, you can say an inference engine is used to decide which questions to ask the user. See, so an inference engine is used to decide what questions to ask from the user. Ask from the user. So it's the same thing. So like you see, if you said that that the specific person is a footballer, say, and then definitely the engine has to provide you some sort of an extra, you can say, a next question related to football again. Like, did he won the World Cup? If yes, of course, Messi is a goat. So it's gonna have a high probability that the person is thinking about Messi, right? But for instance, you say no, then the app is going to be putting up another question. Did this player play for Real Madrid? See, so what you are going to observe in expert system is that the question which the user is getting up here, it's sort of somewhat related to the previous answer. Now, who is going to be making this decision that what next question should be coming up on the screen? It's again your inference engine. So you should be aware of that too. Messi is the GOAT. No debate on that. See, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Apart from that, let's continue. The second point after this will be that this decision which the inference engine is going to take, it is basically going to depend on the previous user input. So like, if I say the person is a footballer, then the next question is going to be related to something related to football, right? So we're going to say that the second point will be that this decision or this question is based on the previous data input. So this question is based on the previous user's input, previous user input. And you have written 3 points still here. So you wrote one as the inference point, then the second one this, and the third one this. So even if you stop up here, you're going to get a perfect 3 on 3. But what if you want to write some extra points? So you can also say that like systems inputs are then located, and then it's like sort of the whatever decision you make, it is compared to a knowledge base. And then based on that, based on the rules applied to that knowledge base, it is going to decide the diagnosis. See? So you can talk about like, yes, I use a graphic tablet. So you can talk about knowledge base up here, that how knowledge base is brought up here, and then you can also use the rules point alongside to get the final diagnosis. So these are like some 2 extra points, but if you also mention 2 of them, you're going to get like +2, which in this scenario you have 3 marks, so it won't benefit you. But my advice will be, even if it's 3, go for 4, because it did not specify how many points you're writing. So if one of them is vague, you're still going to be safe. So ye ek thodi si baat hai that whenever you're dealing with a paper 1 question, do try to write 1 extra point. It's not going to mainly in this question, we can mention components and how will they help with diagnosis. Yes, you have to do the same thing. You just basically need to tell that how will an expert system work in a scenario related to that in which we have to diagnose a specific disease. So even if you look up here, we did discuss the components. So we discussed the inference engine, which is one of the component. And then if you want, you can also discuss the knowledge base part, which I mentioned up here. So you're trying of type of like bringing up 2 of those important components, and then you're linking that how will that component be used to ensure that a diagnosis of a specific disease is done in the right way. So that's how you need to explain, because the question clearly mentions that you need to explain how does the expert system decides the diagnosis. So it's not only that you need to explain the components, you need to relate it in a way that how does the component help us in deciding the diagnosis. समझ गए? So now continuing with part B, it says that the hospital now has a robot that is used to perform surgery, and that a doctor controls the robot from a different location to perform a surgery on a patient. And now it's saying that one feature of a robot is that it has electrical components. Give 2 other examples of the electrical components of a robot. Okay, so we need to give two examples of what electronics might be used up there. Yeah, IGCSE and O level has the same syllabus. They have the same papers. They have the same book. You can say they have everything identical. So you don't need to worry whether you're going with IGCSE past paper practice or you're going to go with O level papers. Same common, even like the exam paper is same. It's only there for some limited papers. So like IGCSE and O levels for CS is similar, but maybe for some other subject differences do exist. Yes, Mahad. For Feb March, yeah, for whatever paper it is, like even if it's May, June, October, November, Feb March, it's same. I guess there is no Feb March for October O levels, but if it is, then yes, it's same. I'm not sure about O levels though because I personally did IGCSE. So yeah, O levels do not have Feb March if I'm not wrong. But even if they do, it's 100% same. So, Mahad is saying sensors and microprocessors. Yep, perfect. Perfect, Mahad. Sensor is one of the answer, and then microprocessor is the other one. So, both of the two are basically electronics or electrical components which a robot might use. But apart from that, there is also one third one, which is an actuator. So, actuator is that specific part of your robot which allows it to do maybe some specific, you can say, actions, so like move towards right, move towards left, uh, carry something or something or that involves mechanical force is known as an actuator. No, yeah, I gave IGCSE. I personally did IGCSE. Yes, HSN I guess also has IGCSE only. A lot of my friends are from HSN though. But now, part two is saying that explain the advantages of using the robot to perform surgery. Now, this basically is talking about advantages of a robot, but you see, it's also giving you sort of a scenario. So, the best answer in this case will be where you take a specific benefit and then you link it. You link it to a specific scenario. No, I did not do it from HSN. I'm not an HSonian, but I have a lot of friends. Say quicker. Okay, Saifullah is saying quicker, it will be efficient. Okay, right point. You're correct that it's going to take less time, but you need to discuss it in a bit other way. So I can say maybe if I have a robot where the question clearly says that this robot can be used in a way where the doctor controls the robot from a different location. So maybe a doctor might not be in hospital and he's still conducting an operation. So it can help you that way. So like we can say a doctor doesn't need to travel to the hospital to do surgery. So one point can be this: a doctor is not required to go to the hospital to perform surgery. And now, while this is going to give me 1 mark, why not if I link this point to some other point? So like I can say that if a doctor can do it from anywhere in the world, we can say that there will be no wait for travel time. So like there won't be any need to wait for travel time. The surgery can be done like maybe from any specialist or doctor in the world, or we can also say that the travel cost can be saved, or we can also say that the doctor may be better at the surgery as they won't be tied. So we have all those possible scenarios. So we can write any of them. So like what if I just say that costs are saved, or maybe it can be said that so the surgery can be done by any specialist in the world. Say so both of them are correct. We'll give this to go to the hospital to perform surgery. So any doctor or any specialist in the world can perform the surgery. Now, the points which you guys mentioned in the chat box, like Moise said that less work can work 24/7, more accurate and efficient, or Mahat said that it can be cheaper in the long run than hiring labor to perform those surgeries. See, the point is that your points are valid, as in you have memorized the general points of the benefits of a robot. But you see that the question clearly says that you need to explain the advantages of using the robot to perform surgery. So, whatever point you're mentioning, you need to ensure that the point is related to the specific scenario of performing a surgery. If it's not, then like the one which Mahat said can be cheaper in the longer run than hiring labor, that might not be valid. Why? Because Mahat, tell me, while your point is 100% correct for a robot, you see that in the question they have said that the robot still has to be controlled from a different location by a doctor. So yeah, so either way a doctor will be required. So even if you're bringing up robots, a doctor will be still there to control it. So if a doctor is controlling it, this means that your point where you're saying that it can be cheaper in the longer run because you would not be hiring any sort of doctors, that point becomes invalid because a doctor is still controlling it. समझ गए? Yes, बिल्कुल सैफुल्ला, it does need guidance. So this might be one point. Now coming to the points which Moise said, yes, your points are way more like correct to this. So like if you said that there will be less errors, you should say in a way that surgery with robots can enhance accuracy, and so there is a smaller chances of error to be made. Say, or we can say that the recovery time may be shorter, or we can also say that the surgery is going to be more safe, or this chances or the rate of success might be higher. So the second point can go like, let's do it with the green pen. We can state that the surgery with robots can have better accuracy, and so the chances of errors. So the chances of errors are going to be low, and the patient can recover in less time. Why? Because definitely tell me one thing. If a human is doing the surgery, and what if he mistakenly cuts it more than the required? Like if he's cutting this part of your hand, and he rather than just to having a cut of this much, he cuts it this much. So definitely, if it was more precise, the mark would have been smaller, and so the recovery time would have been definitely less, right? But in this scenario, definitely it's going to be more. So yeah, and so just like Moise said, yes, it's going to be more safe. Thus, it will be more safe. Thus, it will be more safe. So, Mahad is saying a surgery isn't just performed by one dog, it's a team of. That is okay, Mahad. See, the thing is, your point is valid. I'm not saying that your point is incorrect, but you see that it's basically talking about that if a person is lying up here on a bed and a specific part of robot is coming up and it is doing one specific task, this is basically replacing one doctor. Okay, this is replacing one doctor. So if there are like a group of operation, this means that multiple tasks will be done by multiple needles up here, multiple robots, and each of them will be managed by a doctor separately. So this will be handled by doctor 1, this will be handled by doctor 2, and this will be handled by doctor 3. Because in the question they said that a doctor controls the robot from a different location. Okay, so it's sort of indicating, and it's because it's a bit vague in this point, I would recommend that you should not go for such points. But still, if you do write it, this is a valid point, but it's not something which is related to the scenario discussed up here. Because your point, while it may seem that it's what do we call it, reasonable at one side, it might not be counted as the valid point in terms of examiner. Because what if the examiner was with the mindset that no, see, I get your point that in the longer run it can be cheaper, but that's only going to be cheaper if we say that it's totally going to replace doctors. But what if I say that one doctor is basically dealing with one such point? Say, so one handle is being managed by one doctor. So if like there were three doctors originally working on a patient, now we have three sort of different needles, and each of them is separately going to be handled by a doctor. So in a scenario like this, your marking scheme is going to clearly mention that you won't be awarded mark for writing such statements. All right, so continuing, part 3 says that you need to explain one disadvantage of using the robot to perform surgery. So now you need to talk about why this might not be some good point. So you can say, now here the point can come up as like, maybe you can say the robot will be expensive to buy, and like the money could be used on other causes. So this might be the most valid point, because when you read the book, you're going to see that the one disadvantage which has been discussed everywhere, it is basically about how it's a super expensive component. So we can say that the robot will be expensive to buy. The robot will be expensive to buy, and this money could have been could have been used for other causes. And now the second point where I'm basically saying that this could have been used for other causes. This is again something which is related to the scenarios because we have an hospital. A hospital can also have a lot of things where the money might be required more than maybe purchasing a specific robot. So, yeah, so in a scenario like this, it's better to go and spend money there. Apart from that, Faizan said that it's hard to manage. So rather than stating hard to manage, you can say that a robot's hardware could malfunction. So the surgery cannot continue. And without, apart from that, Moise is saying that high maintenance costs, which will increase the electricity bill. Now, this point again is something which does come under the same point, Jomenilika, that the robot will be expensive to buy because it covers up everything. So you should not be so specific in a two-mark question. Try to be a bit generalized so that you do not lose marks if your point is not stated in the marking scheme. And apart from this, you can also talk about how that the robot could be hacked, so which can endanger the patient's life. Or what if like internet connection is lost and the surgery may not be able to continue, or like what if the data is corrupted and so once the data is corrupted, it is basically going to change the nature of how the robot is going to perform a specific surgery. So these are like some sort of disadvantages, but you're going to note that all these disadvantages are pretty much applied disadvantages. So it's sort of, you can say, we're talking about the disadvantage of a robot but in a given scenario. And that's the exact reason why in the book there are like so many examples stated for how a robot will be performing in a given scenario. So you should be well aware of all of them. So, yeah, so that even if a scenario comes up like this, which might not have been discussed in the book, you should be good to go and you should feel confident that यार कोई मसले की बात नहीं हो जाएगा इंशाल्लाह. All right, so part C is from chapter number 5, and we did this question last night, so we will be skipping this for today. And again, this is not part of the course topic which we are discussing right now. With that, we are done with the very first question. So before moving on, is there any question related to this, or is this perfectly clear? If there is any question, you guys can ask it right now. Perfect. All right, great. That's perfect. That's perfect. So now, as we're done with paper number 12, we are now going to be shifting to paper number 13 of the same 2025 exam session. And we're going to see if we find a question from chapter number 6 up here. All right. So, no, no. Yeah, so we have a question up here. Now, this part, this specific question is basically discussing your automated system. So, automated system, AI, robots, these are pretty similar terms. So, do ensure that you are well aware of the differences that exist out there. So, as now, क्या mix कर रहे हो, say? So, now it's saying that a weather station uses automated systems to collect and analyze data about the weather. Okay, makes sense. Now, this automated system make use of sensors, and now it's saying that you need to give another component that will be part of the automated system. So because it's an automated system, if it is making use of a sensor, it does require like a microprocessor or a brain to analyze those information that it is getting from the sensor. So the most ideal answer up here will be a microprocessor. Apart from microprocessor, just like I mentioned in the last question, you can also talk about actuator. An actuator might be used to maybe, what if I have a specific solar panel which operates in a way, not also not a solar panel, it's a weather station, right? So like, what if I have a specific device that is basically observing the amount of rain that is falling, and so, well, किस तरह भी नहीं. What if I say that there is a specific component which can rotate here and there to see in what direction is the wind going? Say, so because it can rotate and it has some sort of mechanical power to it, an actuator will be required up here. And just like that, if it has to store data, because it is saying that to collect and analyze data, so because it is going to collect the data, this means that you can also talk about any storage part. So you can say storage or memory. Say, so you're going to get 1 mark for writing any of these 3 points. Apart from that, part B says that one part sensor is that is part of the automated system is a temperature sensor. And now it's asking you that if one of them is a temperature sensor, what other sensor can we basically make use of up here? So we can include any of them. So like I can say that if I want to maybe see how much humidity is there in the environment, so I can write a humidity sensor. Say humidity sensor. Now you will see that this question is not something which is talking about how a specific sensor fully works. It's just asking you in what scenarios will it be applied. So you should be well aware of what and where a specific sensor might be used. समझ गए? Part C says that an alert is sent to an employee if in the weather office if the temperature if a temperature above 40 Celsius is detected. And now it's asking us that how does a temperature above 40 Celsius is detected for the alert. So you need to explain the point of how the data is going to go to the microprocessor, and then it's going to check it against a set given data criteria. And if it is out of it, it's going to send an alert, or otherwise it's going to repeat the process. And so we need to write the whole process, but it's because of 3 marks, the examiner expects you to write only 3 points. So the first point is going to be a microprocessor is used. A microprocessor, or you can say your brain, or the computer's brain, or the system's brain. A microprocessor is used which will be getting, हम ये भी बोल सकते हैं, which receives data from the sensor. I used to love such questions back then when I was preparing for my exam, because this used to be a very, very, very easy question. See, so does air purifiers? No, 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 no. The sensors are there in your book. So you open the book and you're gonna see the content has a whole table created where all the sensors in your course, the one mentioned in your syllabus, have been fully discussed. You are only required to write sensors from that list. If you go out of them, and if it's something like air purifier is not a sensor, air purifier is sort of a device that make use of maybe a sensor to implement its technology. It's going to purify the air, but it's like a final object. It's not one of those components. समझ गए? So a microprocessor is used which receives data from the user, नहीं from the sensor, my bad, from the sensor. And now, once it receives the data, it is basically comparing it against a set value of 40. So if is the value greater than 40 or not? If it is greater or no. So I'm going to say the value or the temperature, yeah, but the data is compared against a set value of 40. If the value exceeds 40, the microprocessor, then basically definitely it means that it needs to send an alert. So the microprocessor, if the value exceeds for the microprocessor, then sends an alert to the employee, to an employee. Perfect 3 by 3. So you get like perfect 3 on 3 for this. Just give me a minute. मैं एक सेकंड में चार्जिंग पे एक चीज लगा लेता हूँ. Macro compare values to show. Yes, बिल्कुल बिल्कुल Moise. So like in this scenario, the stored value is basically एक second. यार ये charging पे लगा. So in this scenario, your microprocessor is getting data from the sensor, and then it is comparing it against the stored value, which is 40 Celsius up here. So it can be anything. Like I can say that what if it's like less than 40 alert business, so I can program it in a way that if the value is less than 40, then you need to basically send an alert. हाँ सर आप इसमें खाना खाया? यस मैंने खाना खाया हुआ है. Part 2 says that, okay, that it is making use of serial simplex. This is chapter number 2, so we will not be doing this. And then part C says, part D basically says, okay, this was C, right? So part D now says that you need to basically give 2 advantages to the weather station employees of using an automated weather system. So it's not like what's the benefit to the environment or something. It's clearly mentioned that you have to give it to the employees. So what benefit does the employee get? It's that maybe the employee, most of these are out of 6 marks. So how to score more on this question? Yeah, see, the main tip to maximizing marks is by doing as many questions as you can. So the more questions you do, given that you understand the concept really well and that you can apply it in different scenarios, and once you do like a lot of topical questions, you're going to understand that the questions are being repeated. It's just a scenario, like maybe in a different scenario it's like 80 degrees or maybe 30 degrees, or maybe it says like a scenario changes, like rather than it being a weather station, it can be like a security system. So it's just the scenarios are being changed, but once your concept is all clear, you're going to see that everything is very easy to solve. It's not that difficult. If you feel like all these 6 8 markers coming up with a different scenario, something which you are unable to do, this clearly indicates that your concepts are weak. And in a scenario like this, it's better that you go and restart the course before moving on. So now in this part, we're going to be talking about what are the advantages. So one advantage can be that the employees do not need to work all night, or maybe do not need to work in like adverse weather conditions. So एक तो हम ये लिखते थे, the employees do not need to work in adverse weather conditions. One point. And then the second point can be the employees do not need to work all night or the overnight. The employees, my bad. The employees do not need to, employees do not need to work all night. And you will get a perfect 2 by 2 for writing these two statements. Can we write less workload? No. Workload is not the right word to write up here. Say you can rather talk about how employees are not required to carry out a repetitive task. So if you talk about repetitive task as one of the points, that's also correct. And this is exactly what I was talking about, the reel which I shared on my Instagram page. That in that I was talking about how keywords are really important. So even though Moise, what you're trying to say might seem relevant in this scenario, the word which you are stating, less workload, that is a pretty vague term. So you should not be going with such vague terms which the examiner might not credit. So while doing topical questions or doing past paper or preparing for your exams, it's important that once you mark it, you also see what were the words that the examiner expected from you. The more you build in those words into your vocabulary, the better you will be in performing well in your exam. समझ गए? So continuing party now again, just like before, it's stating that you need to give us one disadvantage. So definitely one disadvantage can be that if a person is no longer, what do we call it, looking and observing how weather is being measured or like calculated, the values for those specific calculations are being calculated, it can result in the employees getting de-skilled or like maybe replaced employees and take their jobs. So it's saying like what can be the disadvantage to the employees. So one can be it can de-skill them, because definitely if you don't do anything for like a year, you're going to forget how you did it. Like if I tell you to go open up one specific book, it's going to result in a big problem which you, if you haven't studied it for like maybe 6 7 years. And just like the Moise and Saifullah, you're perfectly right. The second point can be like unemployment. Say so it can say it may replace employees and take their job. It may replace employees and take their job. But rather than writing this small word unemployment, you might see that I've mentioned it in a pretty long way. And this is exactly what the examiner expects you in the marking scheme too, that you need to explain it in a way where you are fully confident and clear. So unemployed, what do you mean by unemployment? Say so, don't be vague. Or like even if you are trying to, like unemployment is the right word up here, try to be a bit explained. Don't be very general. So yeah. So now the next part is like saying that the automated system, whether is now the system is now upgraded and given machine learning capabilities. And then it is saying that machine learning is a part of computer science, branch of computer science, and we just need to identify the name of this branch. So what do you guys think? What's the branch name? It's something which is very, very common. Perfect voice. It's artificial intelligence. Yes. So we're going to be writing artificial intelligence up here. So it's artificial intelligence. And now in the B part, it's basically, or in the second part, it's basically saying that how can we make use of machine learning capabilities to predict future weather? 3 points. So this means that the examiner expects 3 statements. So what 3 statements can we write up here? We can say that it can adapt to its own process data and analyze the data for the trends based on and like based on the pattern it can predict future weather patterns, and then a feedback could be provided to it based on which it can learn whether to improve data or make other decisions and all that stuff. Say some सबसे पहले we can say that it can adapt its own processes. It can adapt its own processes and analyze the currently available data to predict patterns. To predict patterns तो नहीं होगा, to create patterns, ये create patterns, and based on this patterns and based on these patterns it will predict future weather. So you see we have mentioned 3 points up here. Firstly adapting, secondly analyzing, and thirdly predicting the future weather. And you're going to get perfect three thrill here, but if you want to add more you can also say that it could learn what weathers could occur like at certain times of year, and like also we can provide it feedback so it can change its decision based on the feedback too. So you can talk about feedback point two, which I would recommend that you also discuss. So 4 points likho, so that even if you miss one of them, you should be good to go. Can we give example in this question? If you want to give example, it's important that you try to explain it in a way like what sort of example you want to give. Like what's the one example you want to discuss? Like what specific, like will your example be something related to a specific function or a feature which could be implemented, or if it's something you want to say that I like a specific system could make use of this or this, or like machine learning could be okay, like say chances of rain. Okay, chances of rain is something which the original system was already doing कर भी रहा था ना. अच्छा नहीं, so हाँ जो आपने बोला है कि like to calculate the chances of rain, that is something which does come under this point where I'm stating that it is creating pattern based on, and based on this pattern it is predicting future weather. Now once you write this point and you feel like it's not very much explained, if it's not explained or clear, you can provide a relevant evidence or a relevant example like the one you stated. For instance you can like for instance or for example blah 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 blah, where you can basically state that for example we can implement a machine learning algorithm to see if the chances of rain are less by comparing it with the previous, by comparing the current trends or patterns with the previous data strands. Say so it can ensure that your answer is more clear. Bilkul, if it makes your answer more clarified you should implement it. And also it's important that you do have the space, but if you only mention a point like this and the examiner did not look forward to a scenario based answer, it might not be awarded. So it's important that you write the relevant point firstly with the keyword, and then after that just for the purpose of clarification you try to give an example. And that example is again something jo ki general honi chahiye. It should not be something which quotes like a company that you can say like Elon Musk did something like this, or like SpaceX did something like this. That might be counted as copyright based on what I heard, but I'm not sure about this. But you should not be writing any other company name. Samajh gaye? Is this question clear, everyone? All right, perfect. So now let's continue with the next question. I guess this is the end to this question. Yep. So now we're going to look at paper number 11, and we're going to see if there is any question related to chapter number 6 and paper number 11. Okay. No, nope. Yep, up here. So we do have a question up here related to robots again. So you would have observed till this point there are a lot of questions in chapter number 6, even though they do have concept, it's something which has a lot of memorization related to it too. So the benefit of doing multiple past paper question is that it does not only build your concept, it also allows you to memorize the stuff. So rather than going and doing rote learning, if you try to write the answers again and again, using the examiner wording, over time you're definitely going to memorize it in the right way. So now looking up to this question, it is saying that a robot is used to, oh my bad, is a robot is used to move car parts in a factory, and that one characteristic is that it has a mechanical structure. One give one other characteristic too. So it has basically three characteristics: that it can move, it is programmable, and it has electrical components, one of which Mo stated. So we're going to go with the same point, that it is programmable, and this is one valid point. Same. Then the second point says that the robot has firmware. And now we need to basically tell what's a firmware. So a firmware is basically some sort of permanent instructions that are programmed or stored in the ROM. So yeah, I can say that it is basically instruction that provides the operating system with a platform to run on. Or it can also be counted as a specific software or instruction that allow hardware to be controlled. So whatever point you write among all these will be a valid point. So we can say that it allows the operating system with a platform to run on. So instructions that allow the operating system a platform to run on. Platform to run on. Perfect. Part C then says that interrupts are generated when the robot is operating in the factory. And so we need to give two examples of interrupts that may be generated. So now this part is basically, yes, instructions stored in ROM. Bilkul, bilkul, Moiz, you're correct. But now in part number C, it's basically stating that you need to give two scenarios where an interrupt might be used. So one can be like, what if there is a hardware error? Or maybe the second one could be like, because it's a robot, what if the battery is low? So these could be like two of the most possible cases. So hardware error, and then the other one could be low battery, and you will get perfect 2 on 2 for writing these two. Then in part D, it's saying that you need to give two advantages to the workers in the factory for using robots to move the car parts. So now two advantages could be like that workers are no longer required to lift any of those heavy machinery. They are less likely to injure themselves. They do not need to work in any sort of dangerous environment. Interrupt mean like a system error. Interrupt basically means a signal which means that the user's attention is required immediately. So if I'm saying that I want to talk to you, one method is that I can text you, right, where whenever you're free you can get back. Whereas the second method is that I call you directly, and you see that a proper call ringtone comes up that this person is trying to call you, and this basically indicates that there is a requirement of immediate attention, right? So when your computer requires an immediate attention in a way that it calls you, that calling process is what we call as an interrupt. समझ गए? So the benefits could be that boring repetitive tasks could be exactly. It can basically the workers are no longer required to perform boring or repetitive tasks. So workers are not required to perform boring or repetitive tasks. So like Moise, the way you stated earlier, you can now give an example up here, like moving cars, maybe moving car parts. Say, so you stated the point in the right way, and then you also provided the relevant example to it. So now this marks a perfect point. समझ गए? And then the second one could be anything. So you can like say that the workers are less likely to injure themselves. See, so the workers are less likely to injure themselves, and you get 2 by 2 for this too. And then party says that the robot have the ability to automatically adapt their own processes. State the name of the ability that has been described. So the answer to this is yes, Moise, you're 100% correct. It's machine learning. So machine learning is basically this, it's like an ability of a device or a specific robot that it can basically automatically learn from the processes it's going through, and then analyze it and then bring it into action for the upcoming decisions. So we are done with this question too, and This means we are done with the 2025 major series and it's 9:51. So before ending the class, I would love to do one last question. So let's just go into summer 2024 paper 11. But before moving on, is this question fully clear or do you guys have any questions? All right, that's great to know. So let's see, do we have any other question up here from chapter number 6? Yep, we do. Question number 8, again, just like before, we need to talk about robots. What is it? What does the word automated mean for a robot? What are the characteristics of robot and all that stuff? See, so part 8A says that state what is meant by a robot being automated. So it basically means that the robot can perform actions without human intervention. See, so we will write it as like the robot can perform actions. The robot can perform actions without the human's intervention. Humans intervention. Part B says that give three characteristics of a robot. So you can write any of those characteristics. So like it can move, it is programmable, it has electrical component, it has a mechanical structure. So you can write any of them. Say so it has a mechanical structure, mechanical structure, it has electrical components, electrical components, and you can say that it might be like it is programmable, straightforward. It is programmable. Easy, straightforward, and you get 3 on 3. Then in the next part, it is saying Bilgomo is 100% valid. So in the next part, it is saying that the robot plants seed and stops when it reaches a fence. It then turns and continue planting seeds. The robot uses sensors and a microprocessor to know when it is okay. So this question might seem like from chapter 6, but this is basically from chapter number 3. So we would not be doing it. It's basically talking about how the robot will be making use of a sensor and microprocessors to know it has reached a fence, which basically means that you need to talk about how the sensors are going to be consecutively sending data to the microprocessor. Yes, bilkul. And like it's going to be sending data to the microprocessor, and then the microprocessor will be comparing it with maybe some distance, that if the distance reduces from a specific value, it means that the person or the robot is approaching a fence. And if it is less than that, then it can send a signal to the microprocessor to maybe turn or maybe send an alert or whatever. And then it's this whole process is continuous and it's going to continue. So you just need to explain that process and you're going to get a perfect 6 on 6. But this is something which has been discussed in chapter number 3, topic of senses. So if you want to have more information about this, you can watch our YouTube video on this. So you can go to YouTube and you can search for Code Catalyst. And on our YouTube channel, we have shared the whole chapter number 3 videos alongside the topical sessions videos. So you're gonna find everything uploaded up there, and उसके अंदर काफी अच्छे से सब cover up हो जाएगा. So with that, this question has also been completed. It's 9:54. Do you guys have any questions related to anything? If you have anything, we can discuss that. Any other questions? Any queries related to the course, which will be starting from the 1st of December? No worries, no worries. The recording will be uploaded, so you can watch it later on. By the way, if you guys have filled out the form, you would be soon added to our separate students group. If you are not added yet, you guys can drop me a DM. Say yeah. And apart from that, जो आपके registered students के भी demo classes होंगे, and for the non-registered students, the link to the demo class will be shared in the same community group. And if you're willing to join our official classes, you can do that by reaching out to me later on. Okay, I can share the form here. Just a minute. I will reshare it in the group too, but just a minute. I can send it up here too. I will also share it in this group. Say so. Here you go. I have pinned it in the chat box, so you can just have a look up there. Thank you so much, Faizan. That's great to know. No, I would not be teaching you guys hacking. That was just one small interesting post which I found out. So I was like, why not share it on our Instagram page? Yeah, there won't be any class tomorrow. The course is going to start from this Monday, so 1st of December, inshallah. It's going to start from the 1st of December and will go on till the mid of March, inshallah. Towards like ideally 4 months, but the course content will be done by mid of March, inshallah. And this will be including all your course content, followed by your past paper stuff and all those thingies. Yeah, sure, I will send it in the group. Don't worry. Well, I will share it in the group. So it's 9:56. Let me see इसके अंदर कोई question है तो हम देख लेते हैं. Otherwise, we can just end the class up here. I hope there is no question. Oh, we do have a question. So never mind. You need to first be in the A part. You need to talk about what is AI. So 2 points. You just need to talk about what 2 points can you state up here. So firstly, AI is basically the simulation of intelligent behavior. Say so. 1 point could be simulation of intelligent behaviors. So simulation of intelligent behaviors. Intelligent behaviors, and then the second point could be related to any of the other points which were being taught to you, so you can say that it has the ability to reason or the ability to learn or adapt. So why not try both? It has the ability to learn and adapt, say. Or maybe you can also talk about how it has the ability to reason. So you're going to get perfect marks for that. And then in B part, it is saying, talking about how there is a car which has a problem with its braking system. So it is like brought into the garage. And now you need to talk about how the expert system operates and how it is used to help diagnose the problem. So this was exactly the same question was discussed at the start of the class, that you will be having an inference engine, and then the inference engine is basically going to decide on what question to ask from the user, and then the user is going to provide its input, and then based on that it is going to give us more questions. So like this input is going to go to inference engine, it's going to ask more similar questions, and then this the data is basically going to go and it will be compared with the knowledge base plus the rule or whatever the rules were set up which were in the rules base. So knowledge base and rules base ko combined karke, both of them are going to be used together to give you a specific output, and then that output will be given to you on an interface. So that's the whole process which will be used to have successfully locate what the diagnosis of that, like, so it's a specific route towards how you can diagnose that problem. But this was discussed at the start of the class, so I would not be writing it again. So yeah, it's exactly the same question which we had discussed earlier on. So with that, we are done with the chapter number 6, course content 2, and this officially marks the end of our free topical past paper session course, where we, what do we call it, covered up all the topics from chapter number 1 till chapter number 6, alhamdulillah. So the whole paper number 1 topical series is now fully completed, and it has been posted on our YouTube channel too. And apart from that, if you guys are willing to join our upcoming course, I would share the link, and I would love to see you guys in our classes starting from the 1st of December. It will be a super comprehensive course, inshallah. And if you feel like there is any sort of questions or anything which you would like to discuss with me, you guys can always be reaching out. You can always reach out to me in my DMs. No, usually in our official classes, the classes are going to go from Monday to Friday. There won't be any class on Saturday or Sunday. But it's just that because I missed one class previously, so I just took it today. And this is also if there is any class which I missed during the weekdays for our even official batch, we might have a makeup class over the weekend. So yes, so ye bhi ho sakta hai, inshallah. Yeah, sahi hai. So if there are no other questions, we can end the recording and can end